we want, our guys will go elsewhere when they're free agents. And I just think, I got a call from an agent I was managing in the Arizona Fall League. What are you doing with this kid? He's bad. I said, what? What are you talking about? He's not hitting. He's supposed to do this. I said, wait a minute. So I go back on my stuff, and the kid didn't tell him the truth. And the agent called me and in my desk at Maryvale in Arizona, chewing my butt out because his man was not getting at bats. I said, your guy pinch hit this day. The next day, he pinch hit. The next day, he pinch hit. The next day, he was off. The next day, he played and got 2 at bats. The next day, he got 3 at bats. He had a day off. The next day, and when I got done, he says, oh my God, he's hitting quite a bit, isn't he? And I said, yes. But the ball player, and in fact, I called the ball player in. I closed the door and I locked it. And I said, if you got something wrong with me, don't go to your agent and be a little weenie and go, no, Tommy is not hitting me. He's not doing this and that. Come to me, air me out, and say, Tommy, I got to hit more. I've got to do this. Okay. There are other guys on the team, but I found out then, and that was 2002, agents have great control over the game of baseball.
Leo, you ever get threatened?
Huh?
You ever get threatened by agents?
No, I remember Scott Boras told me that when I got into that Strasburg debate, and Scott Boras said, well, if you guys would have handled Steve Avery better than what you did, he would have had a longer career. Well, Steve Avery, the first 6 years, I mean, he was an 18-game winner when he was 21. But look, we had the best. We didn't abuse anybody, and Steve ended up pitching 9 years and 1,600 innings. So I told him, I said, if that's a short career, we'll take it. So, I mean, give me a break.
Scott Boras on the Strasburg thing told me that I don't know what I'm talking about on Tommy John surgery.
That's ridiculous.
No, I swear to God. I was on some radio show and the guy says, well, we just did an interview. This is what Scott Boras said. And he played it and he says, Tommy John doesn't know what he's talking about on that. And he's this and that. Scott Boras does. Scott's looking out for his guys. If I were a ball player in this day and age, I want Scott as my agent because I want to get max money. And that's what you play for, max money.
We have a problem with injuries amongst pitchers. It's devastating It's devastating the industry. We'll start at the end with Dr. Fleisig. What are the solutions with regard to, as I was going about the business of getting people to come to this event, saying this is really for parents and for coaches, that it seems like with all the precautions at the professional level, that the seeds for pitching injuries are being sown long beforehand in the amateur baseball community.
Right. Okay, so to answer that, first of all, I'm going to talk about that, and we've been talking about that for hours, about these elite pitchers who get injured. But I do want to say, in our society, it used to be a lot of boys played a good amount of sports. Now we have a society where a few kids play way too much sports, and a lot of kids play no sports, like Tommy was saying with the text phone. So I'm going to answer your question about how to avoid these kids getting too much injury. But really, these are the minority. The majority of kids are fat and out of shape and not doing anything. And it would be better if we were a society where everyone did a good amount of physical activity. But we're in a situation where the good kids get to play all year round, and what we have to do is we have to try to get the message out to the parents and their kids that more is not always better. If your kid is on one team and playing a moderate amount and the neighbor kid is on 2 teams or the travel team, don't feel jealous you're going to fall behind. If you do a moderate amount, your kid has a good chance of going as far as he can naturally go. Maybe he's only destined to be a high school player or college or pro. The other thing is, the youngest kids, an 8-year-old baseball player is not a mini major leaguer. He's an 8-year-old kid, and he should be a boy or a girl, whatever, and they should play sports. They should play sometimes on organized teams, sometimes free play. You're talking about the kid who can't stand on one leg. Well, if they had developed as athletes and then become baseball pitchers versus trying to become baseball pitchers from the beginning, that would be a great part of the solution. So again, in summary, you have to first have to be athletic and love to play sports and love the sport and learn how to be coordinated, and then develop as a pitcher as you move along, and not emphasize the radar gun so much.
Dr. Ahmad?
It's a complex problem, so it doesn't have a simple solution. But I think we all agree it has to start at the grassroots level. We're not going to solve it from the top down, we're going to solve it from the bottom up, and that's why we're here. We can start to develop systems within our youth athletes, and that's going to propagate all the way up. And at the same time, people at the highest level, if they can be role models for our younger athletes, then that will help. So we can work both ways. I think one of the things we should be careful of is not considering every 8-year-old or 10-year-old the same. They're all different. Some are strong, some are mature physiologically, some are not. Some don't have the same mental ability to get through difficult, challenging situations. So we need to have systems to assess who's at risk and then modify those risk factors that are modifiable, such as weak core strength, things like that. And then not have a paintbrush of certain pitching counts that apply to everybody, but use our network of people to modify the things that are modifiable, adjust when we can adjust and move forward, and really understand and let the parents know that probably the #1 risk factor right now is sports specialization and precocious talent. The kid who is really good at a young age plays more intense with higher velocity that results in too much stress. And those are the kids that end up getting injured.
Leo?
I don't think I can top what these two gentlemen to my left said. I mean, I can't add any more to that than as a pitching coach. If I had a young kids starting, number one, I'd look at their coordination. And number two, I would see how they release just throwing a baseball. And number three, the question everybody always asks me is, when should they start throwing a breaking ball? Well, if they don't have coordination on a fastball, you're not going to teach them how to throw a breaking ball. Then if they do have coordination on a fastball and you want to teach them how to spin the ball a little bit, then you got to teach them how to cushion their elbow. These are things that I looked at. And then there's going to be kids that are emotional, and there's going to be kids that are the stoic figure. One's going to be more mature, physically or mentally. But I just, after listening to the last two comments over here, I couldn't say it any better myself.
Ditto. No, it is. We've got to get it, Ed, at the grassroots, and Glenn said it effectively. That and the problem is you're never going to do it because you'll never convince the parents that their kid can get hurt and he should do this and he should do that because the parents see their kid as the next Clayton Kershaw. You know, I mean, that's the way it is. And, you know, and I graduated high school in 1961. I was 6'3", 160 pounds. I mean, I was massive. I had a 36-inch chest. I mean, I was buffed. The Cleveland Indian scout saw me. They gave me $40,000 to sign. 1961. That was more money than my dad had seen. And I asked this. They said, "Well, our scout. This is what he said: a left-hander with a major league curveball. He has a long, loose, free motion. He will get faster as he matures as a man." That right there would never go into the mix now. That scout would be out, he's fired, he's whatever. So, you know, it's got to start down at the grassroots level, mom and dad, but you just got to make sure that they understand what can happen if they continue to do what they do.
Where's your cast from the original Tommy John surgery?
If I told you, I'd have to kill you.
I got witnesses.
I want to give it to my son, Tommy, and we're going to put it in a shadow box, and he's going to put it up in his office in San Diego. And I told him, you got to have an alarm system on it. The Hall of Fame wants me to donate to them. And I said, what are you going to pay me? We're going to pay anything. I said, I'm not donating. I said, I'm going to get the same money from my son as I'll get to you.
What if Roland Heeman had never traded you from the Chicago White Sox to the Los Angeles
that
Dodgers for
something?
Richie Allen? What would your life have been totally different?
Yeah, because our team doctor with the White Sox was an OBGYN. God's honest truth, I swear to God. He was an OBGYN, and I think some of our ball players needed him more than they needed an orthopedic. But be that as it may, if they needed something, then they sent him to the hospital to see the orthopedic. But thank God, every time we won the playoffs in '77, I beat Steve Carlton in a pouring down rainstorm in
I remember that
1977.
game.
Probably the best game I ever pitched in my life. So we're having a party at Lasorda's Brothers restaurant, and we're drinking beer and hoisting on this. Everybody's toasting. Peter O'Malley's toasting this and they're that. And Frank Sinatra calls and congratulates. Don Rickles calls and all that. And this little guy with a head about the size 9. Got this big head that looks like somebody from Mork and Mindy. And he got up and he said, I just want to thank Peter and the Dodgers and all this, but he said, I think you people should thank me. I probably did more to win this pennant than anybody here. And everybody said, who is this guy? And he says, oh, by the way, I'm Roland Heeman, general manager of the White Sox. I was the one that traded Tommy John for Dick Allen. And everybody, they gave him a standing ovation. But fate, it's fate. God was smiling upon me.
But it is a measure of his humility that Dr. Job did not name the